Well, hey everybody, and welcome to the June town hall for the Boost Forum. So I'm excited to go through some demystifying NetSuite for everybody today, and that's going to be our first topic: is NetSuite's demystified. And then we're going to talk a little bit about our new mentorship program that we kicked off this month, and then finally just talk about featured training for the month. So with that, we're going to dive right in. So NetSuite demystified. A lot of times we have questions that people ask or make assumptions that I'm like, no, NetSuite really doesn't operate this way. So today we're going to go over 12 of those. For the first one is anyone can create support cases with NetSuite. So the myth is, or the background on this is that you have a question on why something isn't working in NetSuite. You expect it to do certain things, say with like landed costs. There's a common perception that anybody can reach out to NetSuite since I purchased NetSuite and create a support case with NetSuite. And the reality is that that's not true. So NetSuite has two support plan types, basic and premium. So basic only covers bugs and when NetSuite is down. And you have to prove that it is a bug and say, I'm expecting landing costs to do this, but it's not doing that. And they're like, nope, that's not how it is. They actually wouldn't create a support case or follow up on that support case because they would say that's more of an enhancement request and not something that they would go into. Now, if your system is down, anybody can create support cases. If your system is down, that is something that's supported on basic. Anything besides bugs and NetSuite down requires premium support, okay? And only authorized contacts within a company, usually one or two within a company, can create support cases with NetSuite. So one, just not any client can create support cases. And two, it has to be specified contacts. It's usually in your system settings, there's places to specify who those authorized contacts are, and they will only deal with those people when you create the cases. So our recommendations on this. So seriously take a look at what your expectations are for support. Now, if you're a company that has a lot of transactions, your e-commerce and you can't be down, we have to have this down, you're probably going to want to be on a premium support plan, and there's different things that you can do with that, and as far as like escalation, things of that nature. But you want to take a look at that and proactively work with your NetSuite rep that you have or your partner that you're working with and determine what is the best plan to pay for. And secondly, do you want to have an administrator? Is that going to be your primary way if NetSuite goes down or you're dealing with issues? Like I said, if it's a NetSuite bug, yes, they can have that case. If it is a situation where NetSuite is down, an administrator is not going to change that either way, but they're going to know how to react and work with NetSuite on that. And then there's also other general support options like Go Virtual Office. We have a Boost program that helps, and we can help create cases for clients on certain situations. So that's the first one. Anyone cannot create support cases in NetSuite. So there's that first one. Second one is workflows are the same as scripting. So kind of the background on this one is you would like to automate a certain aspect of NetSuite. An example would be that your sales staff, whenever they complete a task, they want a task to be automatically created for them. And we see a lot of people that have a technical mindset that they'll go out and create a workflow and think that's the same as scripting. So the question is that really a script? The reality, yes, in some ways they are creating scripting because SuiteFlow or workflow is a tool that actually writes code. Okay, and there's certain parameters that it knows how to write that code. So you are actually creating SuiteScript in your account, but you're not coding SuiteScript. All the same things that apply to good quality development apply to workflows as well. And that's one of the challenges that we see when people write workflows is they don't take those things into consideration just on training. So our recommendations are for workflows that use in limited situations based on the impact of your NetSuite account. If it's something that's going to be affecting a general ledger, like a journal entry or something of that nature, you're probably going to want to have some serious consideration whether or not you would just create a workflow that does something with that. You probably want to have a little bit more meat on the bone as it relates to what you do. Second is take into consideration importance and severity of what you are automating. All, like I said before, all the principles of solid scripting, including writing requirements, having good test cases, doing good QA, they all apply to whether or not it's a workflow creating the script or it's a developer writing the script. And then finally, recognize the limitations of workflows, especially when the timing of it runs. And this is one area where I can always explain that workflows are different in light of scripting. Because if we write a script, we can say when that script runs, like before record load, after record load, and you can do that with workflows too. But you can't say with a workflow the order in which scripts or workflows run. So say you have, on a sales order, you have 2 workflows and 2 scripts. We as developers can say these need to run in this certain order, but you can't do that with workflows. NetSuite independently, and we don't always know what conditions they're going to use to make that judgment of when that workflow runs. So that's one of the things that when we get into an account and before we do any scripting, we take a look at, hey, what are all the workflows, what are all the scripts that are in an account, or what are doing before we make any changes, because sometimes when that script fires, makes an impact on what the data is available on that record. Also, one other thing that I always caution on workflows is to be careful of the speed. They're not always going to be optimized for speed in your account, so it can have an impact on your overall performance of your account. Where scripting, you can kind of monitor that or optimize it a little bit more. You can't optimize the way that workflow does scripting in the background with that. So workflows, technically you are creating a script, but it's not ideal in all situations. Next myth that we're going to talk about is NetSuite CRM doesn't work. Okay, so background on this. You have a sales staff that is begging for a CRM other than NetSuite because it doesn't work, and we hear this a lot. Okay, here's the reality. NetSuite CRM is a combination of 3 things. So when they say, well, CRM doesn't work, you need to ask, which area are you talking about? Because you have support cases, you have Salesforce automation, and you have marketing automation. Okay, so let's talk about these individually. So support cases, that functionality is very, very solid within NetSuite. It does work. I wouldn't say it's like super fluid, but you can do a lot of things to make it fluid for your company. And I've always said it's the most flexible record in all of NetSuite because it doesn't impact the GL, it doesn't impact inventory, it doesn't do anything of that nature. It's just for tracking issues or tracking problems and things of that nature. So sales can use it, accounting can use it, operations with their deliveries can use it. Everybody can use it in NetSuite, and that is a really solid tool. CRM, from the traditional aspect of Salesforce automation, does work, primarily works really good for B2B. B2C can work, but it is a little less limiting on how pliable and flexible it is for B2C. But one of the reasons why B2B works really well is the record structure that NetSuite has of a company and contacts. And when you're in a B2B sales situation, that's usually what you have. I have a company XYZ, and I have Tim, Sue, John, Brian, blah, blah, blah. So I can track those activities based off the contact and have a roll up to a company. Okay, where some other CRM platforms really look at just the contact, not so much like context related to a company. That's why I say B2B actually works really well in NetSuite based off that. Now, marketing automation, we've seen very limited applications where it works really well. You know, it's great for doing like comeback coupons and stuff like that, but we rarely see people use that when we probably do recommend that you look outside of NetSuite for that automation. So, couple of recommendations on CRM. If you are going to use CRM, you must sell out to it, okay? In all successful CRM implementations, it has to start at the executive level. You can't half do CRM and expect it to work. Also, the ones that I've seen that has worked very highly is that you don't get paid commission unless you have those records supporting it in your NetSuite. And there's no better way to get salespeople to do stuff and make sure they get commissioned on it. So have to have the executive buy-in, or that usually does fail. But also I've seen that in other CRMs as well, that if they didn't have that executive buy-in to say this is how we're going to track all of our data, then it usually doesn't work. The second point, most CRM failures have nothing to do with the platform. It generally happens to be a lot of times business processes, that they don't have good business processes baked out in the sales area, or how it transitions from different groups. That's where most of the failures come from. It doesn't come from the actual platform itself. And then finally, set realistic expectations. Is really to say the grass is greener on the other side of the fence, that if we had that CRM platform, that whatever cool today, then everything would be better. That's not always the case. And go back to point number 2, do we have good business processes baked out that a CRM platform can model and help, facilitate, but just make sure you have really good, honest expectations. Okay. Next myth is my NetSuite account is different than large companies. Okay, so background on this. We're a $10 million business running on NetSuite. We can't do what a $500 million business does because they're running on a different version of NetSuite. Okay? Reality is there aren't different quote unquote versions of NetSuite. Now there's different packages that you can get, so there is a little bit when you talk about a version, there is, but the financials are the same for a 500 million company or 10 million. And that's one of the things that I've always been excited about being a NetSuite partner, is you can have a business that's running their business on QuickBooks, that for whatever reason, if business is scaling, they need more horsepower, they can move to a full-fledged ERP system, okay? But the biggest difference is a lot of times is the smaller and larger is different modules. So some people are like, hey, I need to have advanced Rec, I need to have advanced financials or advanced warehouse functionality. So yes, there is that functionality, but it doesn't change based on a certain tier level as relates to, oh, now you get to do this. Now, they do have different tiers as it relates to transactions. Is once you hit a certain level on transactions, then they will put you up into a different tier for that, or suite upgrade. The reason why they do that is there's different expectations if you're running a high amount of transactions, that their normal server architecture, they can't guarantee that it's going to perform at a certain level. So they kind of have different server structure for those high transaction counts. They have a little bit more staff, a little bit higher monitoring, things of nature. So there is a difference in that, but the background functionality of NetSuite is not any different. So in this category, our recommendations is NetSuite have what they call business reviews, where they're a little bit salesy, but they will actually go through and say, okay, this is what you're using, this is what other people in your business, and this is what they're using, and this is what they're doing. And they'll start to roll out all the different modules, functionality, services, and things of that nature. And they'll run through all that. And I recommend that you do a business review about every 2 years, because there's usually something you walk away like, oh wow, I didn't see that sweet app that came out on the release 1 year, and I kind of missed that. Oh, that is probably something that we'd be interested in. And then the second point is really start, as you consider your architecture of NetSuite, that transaction count. It used to be 5-7 years ago, transactions and records and all that counts, it really didn't have that big of an impact. But now with the suite tier upgrades, you do want to take into consideration how many transactions you do have, or how many things you have stored in your file cabinet and things of that nature, because that does have an impact on it. So keep that in mind. Say if you're want to consider, oh, we're going to create this custom transaction whenever this invoice test, we're going to do this as well, and you start doubling up on your transaction count. Be wary of that if you think that you're getting close to that threshold. Okay. So next, I don't need a NetSuite administrator. Okay, so the background on this is we're a $10 million business running on NetSuite. We really don't need a NetSuite administrator. Okay, the reality is you're probably right. Okay, but the complexity of your account is going to determine whether or not that's the case. We see different accounts that are $100 million business, but they're just using NetSuite as a financial pass-through. I mean, they're not tracking inventory, they're not doing fixed assets, they're not doing all this other stuff, but this really, they're using the GL and some associated finance functionality. They really don't. They're stable, they get the reporting that they need. But then you have other businesses that could be a $5 million business that are connected to a 3PL, and they're doing all these crazy e-commerce things. Well, probably do need to have that. So two things to consider: the business process, coordination, and ownership. Think PM and oversight. Do you need somebody coordinating that type of business, making sure that all the nuances are together? And then the second is data integrity. Okay, this is the number one attribute of great NetSuite administrators. Are they helping maintain that data integrity within your account? Because if your data's off, your NetSuite account is going to be off. So as we've talked about the recommendations, some of the questions are things you need to think about. One, does your staff feel confident in your NetSuite account? Okay, so are you running NetSuite? Is this solid? Is everybody pretty much doing what they need to do? Or is there a big knowledge gap? Because a lot of times those administrators will be the ones that can help clear up that, not sure what or why NetSuite's doing this. That'll help. Second, do you have training in place for your new staff? So if you're a growing business and you're adding 5 to 10 users every year, how are they getting trained up? Because usually your people that are busy doing their full-time job aren't trainers as well. So sometimes that NetSuite administrator will do that. And then third, if you cannot operate your business due to a setup, an error created by somebody changing something of that nature, how much would it cost you and your business? Because people are going to change things in your NetSuite account. Things are going to happen, or just configurations, tweaks, and stuff like that. If it caused your business to go down, okay, what is that in comparison to having somebody who is designated as your NetSuite administrator? So if your business is a high severity as far as like transactions, we have to have it. Generally speaking, it's going to cost you more if your business goes down than what it's going to cost for that administrator. And then if you can't justify the cost, then look at a managed application services like Boost. We have a program like Boost Plus. Generally speaking, it changes depending on where you live and what have you, but 1 unit of Boost, which is 15 hours a month, is usually about the 25% of what it would cost for a dedicated NetSuite administrator. The one nice thing about Boost, though, is you also get a finance me, you get a data analyst, you get all this whole group of people that aren't just administrators, but you do get that ability as well. So take a look at that. And then also, we do have a mentorship training program. I mentioned that before at the beginning. That's sometimes you can take somebody who's a super user and then train them up to be a NetSuite admin and what those best practices are. So this one, there is no final answer like you have to have one or you don't have to have one. But I do know that one of the sideline costs of having an admin, sometimes you have to have an admin and like a Boost managed application services. We are so much more efficient when you guys have an admin. So if it's something you're like, yeah, we need a lot of help from an outside source, and we're probably always going to need that because of the nature of our business, you're probably going to minimize how much you may need of us if you do have an administrator. So I think that hybrid approach for those that are really in a growth mode, we're adding a lot of subsidiaries or new functionalities, I think getting both of those is a really good, efficient, and effective way to advance your NetSuite account. Okay, next one, all scripting is the same. Okay, so the myth is your business needs some custom scripting to fill a gap where natural NetSuite doesn't fit the bill. Any script type will work. Okay, so the reality is there's 11 different types of scripting that you can do in NetSuite. You got client side, you got server side, you got suite lists, you got REST lists, you got all of these different things that have their different functions and will affect your NetSuite account differently. And like I said before, like with workflows, having the right script will help your performance. So if people are like, wow, NetSuite's just really slow. Well, maybe there's something going on in your account that's causing it to be slow. Are you using the right type? Like a client side, it can be really, really slow. It can be really dependent upon that, or a server side. And like a client side, just really quick, like a client side script, that scripting kind of works on my laptop, even though it's through the cloud. All that scripting kind of happens as I'm on my side of the computer. The server side is all the calculations are being done on the server side. So I'm having to interact with things for then the server to go ahead and react to that. So say if you're in a situation where somebody doesn't have really good internet, well, that's going to really bog that down. So you have to determine who's going to be using it, what type of function, what is the importance of that when doing that. So that's where people have really good best practice training on SweetScript will know which way to go. So some of our recommendation is, one, know who is writing your NetSuite scripts. Okay, if you're getting off the internet the cheapest that you can find, be careful. Make sure you do good reference checks, get understanding of other businesses that are using them. How is the impact in their account with their scripts? Second, take into consideration the right type after creating validation in your requirement documents. Because a lot of times we say, oh, we're going to do a suitelet on this, and then you go to the process of process engineering and solution design. Okay, well, you really should do your process engineering. What do we need to do? What does the business need to do? And then what is that solution design then? At that solution design, oh, we should probably use a Rustlet there instead of a Suitelet or a client-side script, what have you. And that's really important to start with what is the business process, and then letting those who are really good at development determine the right answer for that. And then as you see here, mention process engineering and solution design, they're synonymous but not the same. Okay, process engineering is where, like, what does this need to do from a business perspective? And then solution design is how do we now support that business process with NetSuite, whether that be with scripting or with another module or things of that nature. Okay, so all scripting is not the same. And then next one on the same thing with scripting is really expensive. Okay, and it can be. But the myth is, I need a script that will auto-populate a value on a sales serve that isn't set naturally by NetSuite. So that, okay, we need to do that. A lot of people, when they hear, okay, well, we need to do scripting, that's really expensive. That's really changed, I would say, over the last 2 to 3 years. And what's really interesting is, as part of the boost, we track everything with a case. Like when we do something for our clients, it's either a project or a case. And our average scripting cases only average around 7 hours. Part of that is AI. AI has really improved the ability for us to not have to code everything. We do use AI tools to help with that code generation. But it's really cut down on the amount of time that we spend actually coding. We still spend a lot of time architecting it so that we make sure that it fits well within NetSuite. Okay. And then also, NetSuite has matured in third-party products that fill gaps to avoid major scripting. So a lot of times, go back 5 to 7 years ago, if you had a big need for your business, it was probably like, okay, if National NetSuite doesn't do it, we're probably going to go to a scripted solution and go down that path. Now, it's more common to say, okay, what third-party product out there can we purchase that has already filled that gap so that we don't have to go in and do custom scripting. So I know this isn't like, directly related to like scripting is really expensive, but use a new mindset of like, hey, is there some product out there somebody's already, built that mousetrap, or, look at little bitty scripts to solve that problem. So as it relates to being really expensive, the one thing, there's a direct correlation. Great requirements equal great scripting, and great scripting has less rework to it. A lot of the costs where scripts get really expensive is when you have to go make modifications to script that you've already built out and you have to go change it. And then business process mismanagement and or scope creep lead to the biggest impact on time for scripting. At times we run into a lot of like, well, this is how we do it. This is how we've always done it. Well, if we just made a tweak on it in Natural NetSuite and do this, and we're like, nope, we're not going to make that change. Sometimes those changes or the inability to make the changes or tweaks on the business process really can lead to some pretty heavy costs on scripting. And then scope creep, like I said, great requirements, get everything documented, get good test cases when you are doing scripting. You'll be amazed how fast a developer can work through on that. Okay. Next one. NetSuite doesn't have BI tools. So you're asked by your management team for analysis of different departments, locations, and channels to make some tough decisions on how you move forward. NetSuite doesn't have the ability to give you good strategic information. Here's the reality. Vast majority of NetSuite users who don't use Suite Analytics. Now, Suite Analytics came out 2 or 3 years ago, and it's gotten progressively better every year. I would not consider Suite Analytics a true BI tool, but it's really close. And the vast majority of what people need from a BI tool in operating NetSuite, they can get through Suite Analytics. Now there is NetSuite Analytics Warehouse, NSAW. That is NetSuite's BI tool. It is sold separately. It is Oracle's BI tool that's been rebranded. So it is a very mature product. It is very robust. It is a true BI tool. So it does have it. But most people really don't know what BI means. BI is business intelligence to dig in to get strategic information where you're doing data analytics and modeling and things of that nature. Most people don't need the modeling nature. They just need comprehensive data that safe searches or reportings, safe searches or reports have. Okay. So like I said here, recommendations. Most people could not give you a definition of what BI means and what they want. But if you do want to move your business ahead based off your data, which I always think is phase 2 or phase 3 of your NetSuite ownership, is you get your foundation set and then you get your people trained up. That next phase, or like phase 3 in my head, is where people really take it and go lightning fast with NetSuite. Make the investment or augment your team to leverage all of that data, because I don't see as many people leveraging that as they could. They get it to where it's a data repository, but not making strategic decisions on that. So one other thing with Boost, we do have a Simple Connect tool that will allow you to connect to Power BI. That is I think that's the largest BI tool out there. There is ways to leverage Power BI with NetSuite data, so don't be afraid to do that. There's different connections that you can do on that. But like I mentioned here, I do see the biggest change between small business and large businesses. Large businesses understand BI, they understand the data modeling, they understand what information they need to see to make good strategic decisions. They invest their time and resources in getting that data. So highly recommend that. Okay, another common myth, NetSuite is too hard. Okay, we've been on NetSuite for 2 years and it's just too hard. We should have stayed on QuickBooks at times, especially people that come to the Boost department because they were implemented by somebody else and it's just not working. They made that big investment. God, we should have just stayed on that, QuickBooks. It'd have been so much easier. Well, to my first point before, Oracle NetSuite is a full-fledged ERP. It has immense horsepower under the hood. It is like going from a Buick to a Ferrari. Okay, but with that power comes some responsibility. NetSuite is flexible in some areas and not in others. It does make sense to have a business analyst on site or an admin mindset when using that flexibility or using your horsepower. To me, at times, I'm like, you wouldn't give your 16-year-old kid who got their license keys to the Ferrari or the Lamborghini. You had to have some training. You had to have an experience. That's kind of why we created that whole mentorship program, is help people get up to speed. And people will frustrate themselves, NetSuite's too hard because, it's not flexible. It makes me do these 2 things instead of QuickBooks. I just did 1. Where it isn't flexible, or worse, that you need to know that it's like that for a reason, because there's separation of duties. And, Sarbanes-Oxley compliant, meaning that you can't, there's accountability in everything that you do, okay? If it isn't flexible where you need it to and you can change it, that's where scripting comes into play to get you that easy button. But at times there is a reason why NetSuite isn't flexible in that area. So A couple recommendations. The mindset that NetSuite is not going to do everything out of the box. No system does. And at times I'll hear people say, well, NetSuite's a big product, it's been around forever. It should do that. Well, it's not going to do everything, and no platform does. So you kind of have to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you just gotta, it's a little bit, oh, I gotta do this extra step. I do it once a week and it takes me 5 minutes. I know it gets annoying, but I'm like, it's usually not that big of a deal. But if it is something that you're like, hey, this is costing us time every single day, then you look at scripting options. And then I have on here PMs, BAs, admins provide value in a trailing way. You must see the value in the position before it's painful. The goal line should be viewed as the starting line, and I'm going to focus on that, the starting line. When you go live on NetSuite, that should be the beginning of your real journey with NetSuite, okay? And you really have to have some of those people with the mindsets of how do I manage an ERP, like a BA or a PM, who's like, okay, let's get all this together and let's figure out how to get it to work so that it's flexible and mold your business to NetSuite and NetSuite to your business. And sometimes you kind of got to do a little bit of both. Okay, so NetSuite is too complex. So kind of going off this, but a little bit different hue, similar to the last one. The reality, yes, in certain ways it is complex, but it's to maintain that separation of duties, permissions, and risk management. When we do root cause analysis on why people say it's complex, a lot of times it goes back on training on what steps are required. They just don't know what to do, or they skip a step and then they go fix something in the GL. So make sure you have good training on that and take that complexity out and build up those muscles mentally, or what you need to do with your system. Some recommendations with this is work with people who understand the dependencies of the process or data to understand the complexity. So you need to know why NetSuite is doing that, okay? Similar for evaluate options with scripting, if you can't change it, it's always going to be like that, or third-party products. So very similar here, kind of a common thread there. Okay, next one, getting out of the functionality aspect, let's talk about partner record. Okay, so background here, when everybody purchases NetSuite in their NetSuite account tracks a partner of record, whether it's Go Virtual Office or you bought it from direct. Like if you bought it directly from NetSuite, NetSuite is your partner of record, and that's whoever sold it to you. Okay, so reality, you can't change your you can change it, but it's not an easy process. And if you decide, hey, I want this company over here not to be my partner of record, well, that partner has to choose that, okay? The client and the partner must agree and contact NetSuite with the initiation coming from the clients. And not all partners are going to want to change. Not to get into the details, but there's financial implications on businesses and history and relationships and all that type of stuff. So it's not always going to happen. My recommendation is to tricky. There we go. One, know who your partner of record is. Not everybody knows. If you don't know, contact NetSuite, they can tell you. And then second, align yourself with those that are close to your business value. So when you're making those business decisions with who you do it and why you do it and stuff like that, make sure that there's a good alignment with that, because that's your partner. It's going to be there for a while unless you go through the kind of tenuous process of going through a partner change. This does impact your NetSuite renewals, additional modules, internal NetSuite relationships, things of that nature. So if you don't know who your partner of record is, whoever contacts you at your renewal period and say, hey, time starts talking to renewal, they're your partner of record. At times on Boost contracts, we have people that we support, we are not the partner of record, and they're like, hey, we need you to help on that NetSuite renewal that we have coming up in a month. We actually can't. We're not your partner of record. We can give you advice or, best practices on how to handle that, but we can't do anything with it. So, okay. And the administrator role is okay for most people. Okay, we see this a lot. So the background is you go live on NetSuite and everything is frantic. People get assigned their different roles like warehouse manager, blah, 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 and they can't get everything done because they never really tested that role and they can't do everything. And so what ends up happening is people just get assigned the administrator role, because when you have the administrator role in NetSuite, you can do everything. Okay. Well, the reality on this is that people with administrator roles can change anything and everything within your NetSuite account. Okay. And this is the number one thing, or number one issue we see with all new accounts, is they don't know who has admin role access and why they do. And so our recommendation on this is know who has it. Okay. And then two, limit it to 1 or 2 people within your account. And then third, time spent on role management leads to overall efficiency. The reason why most people end up with the admin role, like I said, is because they don't have the right role for them. And if you're a smaller business and somebody wears a multitude of hats, they're like, I'll just do the admin. But that gets dangerous because you can make mistakes unknowingly to configuration, which have long down road impacts on your business. So spend the time and get the roles right. Okay, there's a lot of value other than just risk. There's just efficiency and fluidity and setting up your dashboard. So spend some time on that. From a technical perspective, if you don't know how to go find out roles, go to company, set up, and go look at your roles, and you can see who has what roles. Spend the time. It's really worth it. If you don't believe me, the admin role has access to what I call the big red button, which is delete all data. So anybody who is administrator and they're in your account, they can actually go literally delete all the data in your account. That's a scary thing. So, okay, so that's it. So those are all the myths. I hope you got something great out of that. Any questions on any of those, don't be afraid to reach out to us in the forum or reach out to us through our support. We can answer any questions on that. Support at Go Virtual Office if you have any questions on any of those. So we're going to talk real quick about the NetSuite mentorship program. So we rolled this out officially on June 1st. So really, the thought behind it, if there was only an ERP school, yes, you can go to college and get an IT degree, but there's not really a way to learn how to practically manage an ERP. So we consistently see the need for administrator capabilities or people to know the best practices. NetSuite administrators, official NetSuite administrators, they're in high demand and they're not cheap. So at times it's hard to justify the cost. But the sacrifice of not having one is usually efficiency, downtime, leaving parts of NetSuite on the shelf. And if you pay for NetSuite, you might as well be using all of it. Okay, so we see the same with developers who know Java or SweetScript but lack the best practices in that area as well on how to effectively write those scripts. So we created our mentorship programs for admin and for dev, and they're monthly bite-sized training, and it's coupled with Q&A sessions that we call group therapy. So it's a total of 4 hours each month of group mentoring and therapy for each area. Okay, the price on that it is subscription pricing. NetSuite admin is $249 a month, or $26.99 a year. The developer mentorship is $399 or $42.99, or you can do the all access mentorship, which is $579 or $62.49 for both of them. Okay, so I'm going to switch over here real quick, and let me just change here, and I'll get my screen up that I want. And I'll kind of show you what that looks like here. This up a little bit. Here we go. Okay, so in the Boost forum, so you'll see that there are areas down here now in the NetSuite admin and the NetSuite developer. Now, if you're community access or free access, you're just going to see that. You're not going to be able to see into that. Okay, under the NetSuite admin, when you're just in the community access, you'll see coming soon. Once you purchase it, in the admin hub, you'll see we've already done our first month, which is the user management. So we have base training that we'll do on that. And then once we do our topic training, which is around 40 to 50 minutes, we will post that so you can watch that as well. So each month we will have a different topic, like I said, user management, and then we'll have user training. Coming in August is item management. So each month we'll record those base training, and you will also have access to different paid training that is free within there, like our Reporting Academy, our SweetCommerce, those paid classes, you have access to that as well. The dev mentorship is the same exact thing. So on the dev feed here, we have our training on basics on that, and then we have our topic training that will be posted here as well. Same will be said. Next month, we're going to do user event scripts, there'll be client-side scripts, etc., etc. So you have all this training that you can watch on demand, or you can join that topic training and ask questions as they go through it and things of that nature. So there's a 60-day free trial good through the end of this month. After that will be a 30-day free trial. So if you want the 60-day free trial, you can go ahead and sign up. You do have to put in your credit card information. It will not get charged during those first 60 days. So that is our dev mentorship programs. The last thing I wanted to talk about really quick is a new training that we did release, and this is included in the mentorship programs. Heather Kotleski, who's our data diva here at GBO and does a lot of our data work, she went through and created a data import basics overview. The first section, she goes over like the principles of data cleanup. The second section is going to how do you do a single file import. And then the final one is how to do multiple file imports. This one is priced at $99 for a month. You can have access to this class for a month. The thing that's great about these classes is you can have it up on one screen running it, and we designed those so you have your account and be running it on the other screen, and you can pause our class to kind of catch up if you need to, but you can do them in synchronicity there where you do them at the same time. So releasing that today, Data Basics, $99 for a month. So with that, that's all I have for today. I'll just give a little call out on what is next. If go back here, I'll scroll down here. So next month, we're gonna, on our town hall, be a practical approach to AI and how to use it. Start to look at some practical examples of AI. I know everybody hears about it. Reality is you've already been using AI. It's just a hot topic now. On the admin mentorship, they're going to be going over user training, like I said, and then dev mentorship is going to be going over user event scripts. So with that, I hope everybody got a lot out of today's town hall. Like I said, please let us know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.